Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are sharing with you all of the details about Amtrak's brand new route, the Floridian. All right, guys, Amtrak has solved a problem for us on the routes that we have been struggling with for several years now. And they didn't even know that they solved this problem for us. They probably solved the same problem for a lot of people, and that is getting from the Midwest down to South Florida, and the Floridian is going to be the answer to that problem.
Yeah, Chicago to Miami is the new route, and that is going to be amazing for us. Let's jump into all the details. There are some surprises with this route that really kind of did take us by surprise when we were reviewing it. So we'll go over all those, all the details of the route. First, talking about the price, though, it is a little bit surprisingly low when you compare it to some of the other routes. And if you put in for two people, this route is going to cost you $1,067 for a roomette, $1,590 for a bedroom, or $226 for coach. So that really isn't that bad compared to some of the other routes. And if you have one of the companion coupons, you can really knock that down a couple $100 on top of that for those sleeper car accommodations.
Yeah, that's going to be really great to have that option to be able to get either the roomette or the bedroom. But there is something that is absent from this one, and that is that there will be no family bedroom on this train.
Nope, there's no family bedroom, and that's one of the things that really surprised us. So if you want to have a situation where you have a couple people sleeping on the bottom, you will either need to get the 2-bedroom suite, which is combining 2 bedrooms. You could each get a single roomette. We have a whole video on the channel that details what the best way is for you to get 2 people to sleep on the bottom, but there's no family bedroom on this route. And you may be wondering, well, why is there no family bedroom? And that's what I was wondering when I was looking at the tickets, and because I just automatically assumed that from Chicago to Miami, that will be a superliner, because most of the time the viewliners are all the trains that go to New York, and this train is not going to New York. But yet this train is a viewliner, it is not a superliner, so there are no family bedrooms on board.
Yeah, that is a pretty surprising thing. We really thought for sure it was going to be a superliner, so it was really surprising to see it was a viewliner. Another surprising thing is that the Floridian is going to have traditional dining. That's right, you heard right. Traditional dining, and that's something that we are really excited about.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is amazing. Traditional dining is the best. It is now coming to the East Coast, so we'll be able to partake in that when we're going down to Florida, and that's just going to be just really great. Now, there is a new traditional dining menu out, and we have just had this a few days ago before we filmed this on the CoStar Lite, and it's really good. So for lunch, for instance, in the past I've always gotten the cheeseburger on the Superliner traditional dining, and I noticed that they had this new patty melt. That is something that I wanted to try, and so for the last little bit now, I've been getting the patty melt over the cheeseburger. It's really good. That is coming to this train, and it's going to be good for those of you that wanted another option.
Yeah, one of my favorites is I did like the slaw that came with the hamburger whenever I got the hamburger, but they're not serving it with the slaw anymore. They're just serving it with chips. But the meal that I like the most on the traditional dining for lunch is the artisan grilled cheese. It's really good, and it just kind of feels kind of light, not as heavy. So if you're looking for something a little bit on the lighter side, the artisan grilled cheese is going to be really good. Otherwise, if you want something a little bit heavier, that cheeseburger is actually really good. And I did get a bite of Rob's patty melt, and it was also quite good.
Now for dinner, I still always get the steak on board. It is definitely the one to go with for me. Occasionally I'll get the chicken, but they do have a couple other choices on there, but for me it's still just going to be the steak. Now they did mix up the appetizers again, and that's a change I didn't like so much because I was a real big fan of the tamale. That is not going to be on this train. We're just going with the regular appetizers for now.
Yeah, right now the appetizers, they only have two choices. One of them is a brie mixed salad, and the other one is the pearl tempura shrimp. I've tried both of them, and I actually enjoyed both of them because those are things that I like. But if you don't like those types of things, if you don't like shrimp or like seafood, then that wouldn't be a good option. And if you don't really want a salad and you want something else, like you said, a tamale, that would actually be a much better choice. So hopefully they'll be mixing that up a little bit at some point. And then as far as the main dish is concerned, I like 3 different things that I rotate between. I like the salmon. I love the chicken. It was actually really good. It's nice. It's a nice grilled chicken. And of course, I also like the flat iron steak. So I kind of rotate between all of them.
Yeah, for dessert, I had the chocolate cake last week. Still my favorite. I think you had the cheesecake. Had a little bite of that. It's pretty good, but the chocolate cake, I think is still the best dessert that you can choose from on this.
Yeah, but that chocolate cake is super rich, though.
You
kind of have to share it. Because even though it's not like the world's biggest slice, it's a pretty good slice for the most part. But you're never going to finish the whole thing because it's super rich.
It is very rich. So the other surprising thing about this, just that it's a view liner, you are not going to have an observation car on this train. So you could, if it was a superliner, although it's not a guarantee that they would have had it anyway. So there will be no observation car because it's not possible on the Viewliner. Now, what's interesting too is that this is a 46.5-hour ride, so it is going to take 2 overnights. Now, traditionally, from New York City to Miami, it is only 1 overnight. This will be 2 overnights from Chicago to Miami. Hits quite a few of the major cities: Chicago, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Savannah, Tampa, and Miami.
Yeah, and I think that's what you can take into account also with the pricing that we mentioned earlier. Because you're on the train for 2 nights, if you're in a sleeper car, all of your meals are included in that price. So that's really not that bad at all when you think about it.
Right. So the train is going to leave Chicago 6:40 p.m., arrive in Miami 2 days later, 6:09 p.m. It'll leave Miami in the morning at 11:05 a.m., arrive in Chicago at 8:45 a.m. So kind of an early arrival if you're going northbound. I really do like the scheduling going southbound. Kind of a dinner time sort of departure, dinner time arrival. That really works well, I think, when you're riding a train because it's easy to get on, eat dinner, have a little time before you have to go to bed. We recently got on the Coast Starlight at about 10 o'clock at night, and that makes it pretty hard because you're getting on and trying to go right to sleep, and it's tough to do.
Yeah, these are actually really ideal times because by the time you get off the train and you try to get transportation like to your hotel, it's not a bad time traffic-wise, to get to your accommodation. Gives you a little time to get settled in. And like you said, when you get on the train at 6:40, you have your dinner, you have a little bit of time to unwind, go to bed, and kind of go through your day. And there's a lot more to see too, from the Midwest all the way down to South Florida. You'll have lots of different things, to see along the way. There's a lot of great views, Harper's Ferry, and just going through the Potomac area, getting into DC. There's just so many beautiful things to see. So you're definitely going to want to be looking out the window on this one.
Now this is going to be train numbers 40 and 41, which is basically, this is really just a combination of the Capital Limited and the Silver Star. Now this is where it gets pretty interesting though, and this is one of those surprises that weren't mentioned before, which is that this is not only basically those trains, it is going to replace those trains. So if you look on the Amtrak schedule before November 10th, which is when this train will start, if you try to book before November 10th, going from just Chicago to Washington, D.C., you can book the Capital Limited or the Cardinal. But if you try to book after November 10th, the Capital Limited does not exist anymore. So it's just not something that's going to work. And then if you try to book from New York City to Miami, you'll notice that before November 10th, you can book the Silver Star and the Silver Meteor. Afterwards, you can't, because this train is going to replace those trains. So they're not going to be running alongside them, even though it is a separate train. it's replacing them. And I think what this has done for people, they realize there were a lot of people that were going from Chicago to Washington, D.C. on the Capital Limited, and then they were transferring to this one of the silver trains. And basically what this does is it takes away the connection. So when you get to DC, you don't have to switch trains, they don't have to switch your bags, and they don't have to worry about waiting for that train because it is already just one train. And so a lot of times when we would try to make that trip, we would book an extra night in DC to make sure we didn't miss our connection, just to give us that buffer. Well, now that it's all just one train, you don't need to book a buffer. You're never getting off the train. Your bags are staying on the train. It's just a perfect connection from Chicago all the way down to South Florida.
Yeah, and the Silver Meteor is still going to exist. The Silver Star and the Silver Meteor were essentially the same route, except for the fact that the Silver Star would go to Tampa, which you're still going to be, doing on the Floridian. So that's what melted in with this new route. So the Silver Meteor is still going to be doing its same route, obviously without that Tampa, which is going to be included in the Floridian now.
So if you're trying to be nostalgic and you want one of these people that want to try to ride every single route, if you haven't ridden the Capital Limited or the Silver Star, they are going away on November 10th, so you want to get that in before you do that, because this will essentially be the same train, but it's going to be completely different naming and number system. So that is very interesting. All in all, I think it's a great change though, because it will give people the flexibility to get from Chicago to Miami without worrying about missing a connection or having their train be late and then having to stay an extra night in DC. So that's going to be a big savings, because when those trains are late, it can cause all kinds of cascading problems. This basically ensures you're going to get from one direction to the other more or less on time.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of people that we've met on the trains going from the Midwest down to Florida to go on a cruise, because that's really why we've done it. We've been in Chicago visiting with our son, and then we want to go on a cruise, so that's why we always try to get down to Miami. And this train has, solved that for everybody. It really is a great addition to the lineup, and a really good change up. I think nothing is really technically fully going away. Those routes are still there. They just have been blended into one, and they have a new name.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited about this. Love to hear what you guys think about this. Are you excited? Are you sad the Capital Limited and the Silver Star are going away? Are you just excited for there's a new route, a new train to ride? And what do you think of the name, the Floridian? I kind of like it. What do you think?
I do. I kind of like it too. It has a good vibe. Plus, I think it brings to more to the surface the idea of going to Florida, whereas the Silver Meteor, the Silver Star didn't really give that feel of we're going to Florida. I think the Floridian is a really good name, and I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be really well received, and I think the ridership on this is going to be pretty high.
Yeah, I think the Silver Star and Silver Meteor were very confusing, because a lot of times they would refer to them as one train, which they were not. And now that it's going to be just a Floridian, and the Silver Meteor, that's going to be a lot easier for people to keep separate and not make a mistake when booking the wrong one. I know I've had to go back and forth several times when I'm booking that train. Is it the Silver Star? Is it the Silver Meteor? Which one do we need? And it does get confusing. So I think this is going to be better in that regard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, hopefully this has been helpful to you if you are wondering about all the details on Amtrak's new route, the Floridian. If you have any questions, leave those for us down in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time.